Who's your emergency contact? Who should we notify in case of death? Welcome to the USP, where I've spent the last 2+ decades of my life. As you guys know, I've been MIA for the last 30 days or so. I got picked up on August 1st. I was walking to the house, and out of the corner of my eye, I seen 3 rows of U.S. Marshals armed in riot gears, shields, and assault rifles pointing their guns at me. Nothing happened. I seen them. I expected them to be coming. I stepped outside the house to let them arrest me, and they took me to the jail. Now, while I was in the county jail, what I'm about to talk about today was just, I seen a news reporting about the district attorney refusing to prosecute this officer in a 2020 shooting where they were called to come in to assist the family with a 13-year-old kid that had autism. And they ended up shooting the kid, ended up firing 11 shots and hitting the kid 6 times. For the grace of God, the kid survived the shooting, but still, you were not going to be able to know the extent of the trauma that this kid suffered by this police officer. And I know us out here, people out here, they're so quick to call law enforcement on their own family members. But they're not calling these police officers to come in and arrest their family. It's just, there's a lot of mental health issues going on out here with kids and adults and all that stuff. And it's probably hard on the family. They don't know how to really deal with it because the family themselves are not trained in how to deal with someone with these type of issues. So they turn to the government, they turn to the state, they turn to law enforcement for help. But you see on the news so many incidents that these things turn tragic. Fortunately that this incident didn't turn out to be fatal for the 13-year-old kid, but there's so many more incidents that we've seen, on the news reporting that did turn out fatal. And then there's more incidents than that we probably don't ever hear about. The only reason that we hear about now is because everybody walking around is a walking camera. Everybody got a cell phone they can pull out and record the incident. So it's bringing to light really the misconduct by these officers. Now, when I was watching the news clip, they had the body cam that showed the video of this officer. And the kid, his name is Cameron Linden. He's a 13-year-old kid with autism. Whatever's going on at the time, his mom called the authority. But when she called the authority, she reported that, hey, her kid has autism. She needs somebody that knows how to conduct themselves in this type of situation. Well, the people they sent to her house were patrolmen. When they showed up to the house, the kid got scared and ran. I don't know if he jumped out the window or went out the back door, but he ran and the police pursued him. Now on the camera, they showed the kid over there stopping. And the next thing you know, you hear 11 shots fired. Think about that. He's a 13-year-old. You've been called to come and help somebody, help a family member, that there's an issue with their kid and the kid has autism. The kid's not being violent. The kid's didn't break into any houses or resident or any cars. The kid is not committing any type of crime. He wasn't jogging like a lot of these incidents we've seen that people run around jogging through their neighborhood and the police or these neighborhood vigilantes thinking that these guys is criminals and chasing them down and gunning them down. They already knew pre-hand that this was a 13-year-old kid. Let me emphasize that. A 13-year-old kid that has autism, right? So the foot chase ensued. The police is pursuing this kid and they're telling him, hey, stop, stop, stop. And then all you hear is pop, 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 pop. 11 shots. Hit the kid 6 times. Right? And when I seen the news reporting, like I said, this happened back in 2020. So I just saw it on the news when I was in jail these last couple of weeks. And the prosecutor, his name is Sam Gills. He came up on the podium and he declined to prosecute the officer. Now, after the incident, the detectives that came to the scene interviewed the officer, and he asked him, did you see a firearm? Did you see a gun? He said, no, I did not. No, I don't recall. So my question is, if you never saw a gun, or you don't remember seeing a gun, why would you fire 11 rounds? Let's say you were a little spooked and you shot a couple times. That might be understandable. Like, after you shot the kid, you already seen it. When you get hit with something, your hand's gonna fly up and you're gonna be able to see that your hand is empty. Or if the guy has a firearm, maybe he is gonna try to, return fire. But 11 rounds at a 13-year-old kid is pretty excessive, But the reason that the prosecutor didn't pursue criminal charges was they had two conflicting I forget what it's called. Two conflicting experts in this matter. These experts were shown the body cam. And one of them said, yeah, this is an unjustified shooting. While the other one was saying, oh, maybe it's justifiable. But let me tell you about professional experts that these police come and put them on the stand to testify against people. Yeah, they're professional experts because they have the credentials, they've been to the school. But these professional experts, when they're being called by the prosecutor to come and testify for the prosecutor, they're coming there to testify in behalf of the prosecutor. So regardless of what the evidence shows, they're going to side with the prosecutor, or they're going to muddy the issue enough to where it leaves reasonable doubt. Because the district attorney, Sam Gills' justification for refusing to pursue criminal charges was that he had two conflicting opinions. And that maybe it'll result in a hung jury. My thing is, you have to, again, like before I continue, I'm not painting a broad brush on officers that they're all, power tripping, or they're all out there to trigger happy or anything like that. But there's enough of them, that there's enough of those that are power tripping and are trigger happy to make the rest of them look bad. And I don't know the kind of training these officers take. But for me, if you're a scary coward, you shouldn't be in the field. You shouldn't go into an incident hoping that you can get an opportunity to smoke somebody. Again, I saw the video, the body cam on the news. And at no time during the video did the 13-year-old kid pose a threat to this officer. But yet, 11 shots was fired. And the officer is not being held accountable for it. They declined to prosecute. The only thing they did for him was they call it modified duty, which I'm pretty sure I'm going to just assume that they're taking him off the street and giving him a desk job. The family sued the police for, their wrongdoing, and they won $3 million out of the lawsuit. But what is money compared to, the psychological effect that your kid just suffered under. That you call not just the kid, but your mother, the mom. She called the authority for some help, and the authorities came and almost killed her kid. The reason why these officers don't ever get prosecuted or don't ever get held accountable unless the incident is just so outrageous that no reasonable person can ever look past it and justify it, is that they have a powerful unions that protect these officers. And the same type of union that protect these officers protect the correctional officers in the federal prisons. I've shared with you incident where people's died at the hands of COs. People's been beat up to where, for lack of a better word, retarded. And one of those persons is a friend of mine named Happy. He was a Sereno in Atwater. At first, when he came to Atwater, I didn't recognize him, because it's been years. We was in I think we was in Lompoc together, and I didn't recognize the guy, until Bryson said something to me. Bryson said, "Bro, you don't remember him, bro?" I was like, "No, I don't remember him, And then Bryson reminded me that we were in Lompoc together. I forget what unit or anything, but we were all in Lompoc together. But the reason I didn't recognize the man at the time when I met him in Atwater in 2010, 2011, is because he wasn't the same. When I met him, he was retarded. Like he would shake, when you try to talk to you, and he would stutter, and I get worked up when I speak on these type of issues, because these are people that like me and Happy, we weren't homies or nothing like that, but we became really cool in Atwater. Every morning, I have my can of coffee put out right there. That's anybody that needs a cup of coffee, anybody needs a shot of coffee, they know they can come and ask me, and I just tell them it's right there, man. Grab what you need, And me and Happy, we end up kind of kicking it. And every morning he'd come over there and he'd have his cup, holding his cup, and his hand is shaking. And he's like, hey, Mesa, hey, can I get a shot? And I'm like, yeah, Happy, right there. Grab what you need, And sometimes I would have to help him because when he's trying to pick up my can or whatever, he's shaking. And there's a few times like when I'm walking a chow and he's walking, it takes him forever to get to chow because his body doesn't work right anymore. His brain doesn't function right anymore. And he's just, shaking and limping and walking. And, the result of this is because when he got into an incident with the COs. After the incident, after he was restrained, I don't know if they took him to ADX or just in the shoe in another facility, but they proceeded to beat the shit out of him. They beat him until his body lost all normal function. They beat him until his brain lost normal function. Until he was freaking handicapped and retarded. I mean, he still have a sense of what's going on and everything like that. But like I said, when he's trying to speak to me, he's just like, have you ever met somebody that just went through a stroke and half their facial muscles collapse on them or half of their body collapse on them and it's just hanging there. And that's what that's what he looked like. He was just like, kind of You know, and then, like, he has the thoughts and stuff that he still wants to express, but the condition of his body at the time now won't allow him to do it, you know. And, you know, I thought we're happy. Like, me and him got really cool because a lot of his homies didn't really function with him, kind of, because he was just, they didn't know how to deal with someone like that. Because, you know, he would spaz out and just, you know, it's hard to deal with somebody that has mental issues. But his mental issue wasn't something that he was born with. His mental issue come from because he got freaking his ass beat. He's got his ass beat by these officers that are trying to enforce their own sense of justice. And I absolutely, positively, 100% am sure, I didn't read the case or anything, that none of these officers were held accountable for it. They are never. The COs, the correction dudes that beat people's brains in, they don't get held accountable for it. Because they have, you know, just like us in the streets, we have the rules that we don't rat on each other. Well, the same thing abides with these correctional officers that kick it or whatever, that are homies or whatever. They have an understanding that we're not going to tell each other no matter how fucked up we conduct ourselves. You know, before I left Atwater, Happy was getting ready to go home. Like 2014, he was getting ready to go home. And he was terrified of going home. He was terrified of going home because he knows that the state that he's in now is going to be a burden on his family. And that's what, you know, and through the course of our conversation, you know, that's what he's trying to tell me. He's like, I don't want to continue speaking the way he spoke to me. Just, no need to say that it was a long and drawn out conversation, because each time that he spoke, it took minutes for him to convey what he was trying to express. And what he was trying to express to me was that he didn't want to be a burden on his family. He didn't want to come home and have his family have to take care of him because he can barely take care of himself. But he's not a unique situation. I've shared with you about the Cowboys that was in USP Florence back in the late 90s. They had a habit of bringing these dudes down into the basement. I've been in that basement. I've been in the cells where these dudes been killed, where these dudes got their brains beat out. You know, when you go into the cell, it's just a concrete slab for your bunk. And on the concrete slab, they have 4 hooks, on each corner of it. That's why we call it 4-point. Because when they lay you down on that concrete slab, your hands are cuffed up, your legs are cuffed up, and you're at the mercy of the CO. They leave you there to piss on yourself, to shit on yourself. And at any time, these COs will come in and beat the brakes out of you. You can't do nothing about it. The only reason these cowboy dudes were even prosecuted was one of them was dating a girl, was married to a female officer that worked in the facility. And the dude came home and beat his wife. Just like he was beating inmates up in the shoe, he was beating his wife. And eventually she got tired of it and turned him in and then when she turned him in, she testified that there were incidents that he forced her to beat these inmates up while they were 4-point in the shoe. I really don't know where I'm going on with this story. It's just that when I see shit like this, it touched a chord in me. Mainly because of the fact that, when people look at me, they see I'm a criminal, I'm a thug, I'm a gangster, whatever you want to label me. But all the labels that you put on me has a negative, demeanor definition behind it. That, oh, because I'm a gangster, because I'm a criminal, I'm gonna be out here screwing people over, fucking people over, being a douchebag, so on and so forth. But when the public sees that, oh, here's a man in uniform, or here's a man in a suit and tie, he's a prosecutor, he's a judge, he's an attorney, he's a priest, whatever it is, people associate those uniforms with somebody that has integrity, with somebody that's a public servant that has morals and ethics. But so many times we see over and over again that these individuals are lacking all those things, that they're the piece of shit douchebags. You know, you present yourself to the public that you're a person of integrity, but over and over again we see instances that you are not, that you guys are of the good old boy network, protecting each other, putting shit under the rug, and hoping that the public forget about it. Now you see, I shared with you the incident where the U.S. Marshals ran in on me. They didn't come shooting, which I'm grateful that the officers that were sent to my house conducted themselves in a professional manner. Like, again, I'm not here to slander law enforcement or correctional officers. It's just if you're a piece of shit, and I'm gonna call you out on it. But if you conduct yourself in a respectable way, I'm gonna give you your flowers. That's just, you know, I emphasize on my videos that I'm always gonna keep it real and keep it 100 with everybody. When the marshals came, they came, you know, like I said, I saw them with their shields and their riot gear. I was standing in my kitchen, which is just to the right of me. My door, you might be able to see a little bit of it. It was right here. I was in the kitchen, and they came from this side, from the right side, and I seen them. I put my hands up. I walked out the door. I went over there, walked towards them with my hands up, say, hey, man, I ain't got no issues, man. And I allowed them to cuff me. They didn't rough me up or anything. Like, they conduct themselves in a very professional manner. They didn't come and storm in my house. They told my wife to close the door, and that was the end of the incident. They were just coming for me. I say that because these U.S. Marshals that came to my house, they follow protocols. Now, if you remember an incident, maybe it's like 10, 12 years ago, where it was an 11 or 13-year-old kid that got shot at the park and got killed because he was out in the park playing with a toy gun, and somebody called the police that said there was a kid in the park with a gun. Now, you get a report that there's a person, whether it's a kid or man, woman, or anybody that has a firearm, the handbook tells you when you pull up, you secure the scene. You know, you put your roadblocks in, you make sure that there's no civilians, you put your barricade up, making sure there's no civilians in the area that might get shot. And you identify the perp first. And you let the perp know, hey, drop your firearm. But in this particular incident, the police rolled up, and the guy in the passenger seat, before the car had even came to a full stop, he already jumped out the car and started busting and smoked the kid. And for some reason, I don't know if they say it was a justifiable shooting, but he didn't get prosecuted. And then when the news and the journalists started digging up into his background, they seen that he has prior incidents, similar incidents to this type of stuff, and got released from a previous department that he was working in. But there's no universal login to where they can find out why these police got released from this department or anything like that. They come in and they're brand new. They gonna do a back. They do a back. If I go try to get a job somewhere, on the application, they ask me, have I been convicted of a felony? I have to mark check. Or they want a resume of my previous job experience. So they might want to call my previous boss to see what kind of worker I am. They might even look for a letter of recommendation depending on the job that I'm pursuing or anything like that. And this is just a job to go bag some groceries or to do some construction or work in a warehouse. Now here's a job as far as a police officer. You're going to be out in the street engaging with civilians. You're going to be put in high stress situation. Why are these police department not doing a thorough background check on the people that's trying to become officers? Trying to figure out their mental state. Trying to find out what kind of incidents they've had prior. Like, I can't really speak on what the criteria is to become a police officer. But obviously, somewhere along the line, somebody's dropping the ball as far as properly training this individual. Because, we have, people like me, when I'm in the facility, when I'm incarcerated, whether it's in the county jail or federal prison, I can spot these dudes that never been nothing in their life. Never been nowhere, never been nothing. Probably got picked on when they were kids. And they feel like, being a police officer or being a correctional officer is a way to, like, build themselves up and maybe get back at some of the bullies that was picking on them when they were kids. And if you're going to this field, law enforcement field, because of those reasons, then you're setting yourself up, or you're setting the community up for a lot of atrocities. But going back to my friend Happy, he went home. I don't keep in contact with him or anything, but the reason I share this story on this particular day is I get frustrated. If I shoot somebody, I'm going to jail. I've been charged for shooting, for attempts, and all the rest of it. If I beat up somebody, I'm going to jail. But it seems like law enforcement and correctional officer have a green light to do whatever they want to do as long as they can say, oh, my life, I was in fear of my life. And as you know, when I hold a cell, when I'm bucking and I'm holding a cell and these CEOs are dressed up in their riot gear trying to come into my cell, they bring a camera over there. So one of them is recording the incident. But they have it at an angle where you can't really see me, but you can see the officer standing at the door. But the officers that's standing at the door want to make sure that the audio and the video can hear them saying, "Stop resisting, stop resisting, stop resisting." How am I resisting when I'm already handcuffed, hogtied, slammed on my belly? Can't move. But I'm getting my head freaking knocked in by the CEO. The incident I had, he's sitting on top of me. I can't breathe. And I've already been sprayed with 2 canisters of their freaking chemicals that turns the freaking paint orange. Like when they spray it on this wall right here, it leaves an orange stain. But as it sits there, you can see the paint on the wall bubbling up. This is paint on the wall right here, bubbling up. So imagine what that's doing in your lungs, right? But I'm hogtied. They got my legs shackled. They got me cuffed up behind my back. The dude sitting on top of my back, and he's banging the back of my head. He's kneeing the back of my head. I'm in the back of the cell by the shower, so he's knocking the back of my head, and my forehead is hitting the showers. Pop, pop. I'm just getting ping pong back and forth between his knee and the shower. But the whole time, they're saying, stop resisting, stop resisting, stop resisting. So if it comes back out that I got brain damage, or my arm is broke, or my leg is broke, or my rib is broke, my jaw is broke, when they go look through the video, they're going to see that, oh, it's justifiable. He was resisting. But they're not recording the actual beating. They're just, they have it at an angle where they don't show you the actual beating, but you can hear all the officers, stop resisting, stop resisting, stop resisting. They know they're taught to do that because so they can cover themselves, so they don't get, prosecuted for just beating somebody's ass. And I don't know how we rectify or change, the way things work. But it's just, I'm sharing this with you because there's a lot of that shit that goes on, that's been going on, that's still going on, that, not just people out here that are at risk with these officers, with these cowards that come there scared, happy trigger, and power tripping. But these inmates, these convicts that's locked up, they're going through that. There's many, many incidents where there's lawsuits on them that are placed on them because their family member, because their husband and their dad's been killed by these COs. And at this time, I have no idea how we can rectify that or how we can fix that. I just wanted to share with you, these things happen, and they happen on a daily basis. Welcome to the USP.